The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall continue to follow me all the days of this protracted experience of death, and I will dwell in the house of the most super intelligent power, source, and force of love and creation forever. What's happening? Benton here. Trying to figure out the lighting and the camera situation. Boy, look at this crazy ass hair. I'm on camera. Benton's on camera. Well, lots of news, lots of updates. It's all happening. We're in a motel. Actually, I'm in the truck. I'd rather not wake up the fine folks at the motel. Hotel, rather. It's a hotel. And man, where to begin on the saga that was yesterday? I'm sure the story will unfold as it does in a disjointed fashion. I just realized the heater's in the back. I can't have these curtains closed anymore. Silly boy. You silly boy. What heater's working? I wonder if the let me see here. Yeah, I don't think the truck has turned itself on and ran yet. We're at 12.4 volts. I think it would be higher if it idled for a couple of hours. Yeah, shame about the lighting situation in here. I wonder. I want everybody to be able to see me opening the front door. The creepy crawlers at 3:20 a.m. in Waukesha, Wisconsin, east of Milwaukee. Look, I'm on camera. We got 5 viewing. It's usually like 1, but anyway, there's no live chat. It is what it is. Please deal accordingly. And I listened to a YouTube video that I won't even attempt to describe yesterday, talking about leverage within the context of, I scared a couple of them off. They said, no live chat, we're out of here. Who is this bozo? Hey. Oh, that was mean. I apologize. And, talking about trying to work these corporate jobs and the YouTube content creator, like a white collar, educated, over socialized, right? In the Kaczynskian fashion, over socialized bozo. Young fella from my perspective, maybe early 30s, white guy, regular white guy, Chad Light type, perhaps. Conventionally handsome. A lot of these content creators who make a good so-called living on YouTube, they're good looking, right? Meanwhile, O'Benton ain't even on camera most of the time, but funny how that works. And I don't want to get too unfocused here at the start, because I want to talk about leverage. And he's talking about, some comment one of his friends or acquaintances made about this guy had lost his job recently, or maybe it was the content creator lost his job, his main gig with the, probably making anywhere from 150 to 250K a year with a major, large corporation. And the guy, they know a lot of times they know they're going to get laid off, but the comment was something to the effect of, I don't know the guy said he didn't know what he was more fearful of, losing that corporate job and not being able to find another one, or, actually finding a job, because there's this idea of this protracted, 2+ year long job search potentially. Man, I just noticed something on my skin I'm going to have to deal with. Shit. Oh, well, I'll put some iodine on that. It'll be all right. Oh, that's right. I moved out of the truck. As a piece of the story unfolds, I moved out of the truck into a hotel. There's effectively none of my belongings in the truck. In fact, at a certain point, I'd left the truck at a quick trip, a small truck stop, where it surely would have been towed within a couple of days. And I Ubered to the hotel, only to later Uber back to the truck and bring it over here. And so what the content creators started talking about was, his realization that, and so the fear, as they discussed with his friend, which was maybe just a voice in his head, who knows, with these levels of social isolation these days, but it was this idea of leverage. And when being employed, whether with a trucking company or a corporation, is to give up leverage, right? Or to have limited leverage. And the corporation, and this is my understanding of his own comments, this is not the way he framed it, the corporation or the business, right? And remember, this is all in the context of delusory adversarial realm of business transactions, world of death, game of lies style. So, the corporation will always seek to extract more from the individual using leverage while paying less money, right? While actually giving less money and benefits over time. And also the working conditions, of the corporation will become very efficient in, making the working conditions even more efficient. Yeah. See, that's going to bother me. That needs to be treated immediately. Something in my skin is going to be infected, turn into a staph or whatever pretty quick. It's always something, right? It's starting to hurt too. Oh, well, I know from experience I can put some iodine on it and slap a Band-Aid on it. It'll be fine. Maybe I've got one of them alcohol wipes as a sort of a temporary measure. I don't think I do. I cleaned out the truck. Yeah, wait a minute. Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. Okay, hang on. Panic mode over my skin here. I'm not trying to have to take antibiotics. I had to take it I had MRSA one time, a serious staph infection. It's one thing about the lack of bathing and the just general not washing of the hands. When you get a little bit of a nick in the skin or a little bit of an abrasion, at my age, it happens. I'm 50. Oh, but you're young. I don't remember my fucking skin tearing off my body when I was young. Your skin tear off your body when you was a youngin'? Now you cut yourself, right? I just do regular shit, wild man style, and my fucking skin tears off. Right? Look at this. You can't see it, of course, but there's 2 different spots on my knuckles where I was just doing normal shit. Right? Oh, we're losing them. We'll start covering up that. I need to start putting a little piece of tape over where it tells me how many you're viewing. Is this YouTube training me to stay focused? I don't know. Back to leverage. Okay, so under the context of leverage, and you know, everybody has to have a solution. So part of what the American people are going through right now is many are this idea of waking up, which is certainly not a thing, but seemingly a lot of folks are recognizing that they were sold a bill of goods around, you know, employment and the so-called American dream and all of these things. And which the American dream, the actual American dream, is to do more for less, right? And to be sold a bill of goods. That's what it functions as, and that's why you've had such you know, migration and immigrants, you know, because that was the promise of America, because they couldn't necessarily um, have quite the opportunity in their home countries. But then, as I've noted, aren't there always people thriving in any land? I mean, how many countries are actually so failed and, you know, banana republics that nobody's doing good, right? You know what, North Korea? And so what you're talking about is the ambitious, it's not people fleeing anything, it's the ambitious types who aren't talented or skilled enough or don't have the right connections or who are unlucky or just born into the wrong circumstances. They leave where they're from, see, because where they're from didn't want them, right? And can you blame them? And that's this whole world. You know, Benton, what I am. Oh, this water bottle's leaking. I now realize. How, man, I got like 15 of these things. How did I bring the only one that's leaking? This is crazy. I mean, hey, you want to talk about surrealistic, waking dreams, surrealistic, unreality, deja vu all over again. And it was sitting on a kitchen counter, and I didn't notice any leakage. I mean, what the hell? I'll drink it out of this cup. It's cold, by the way. I think it's about 20 degrees. It's supposed to get down to about 15. Winter ain't done with us yet, is it? And I'm going to get to leverage and also leveling up, because there does seem to be some spiritual leveling up starting to occur for old Benton. So, and I'll slowly but surely tell the details of what's going down with the truck driving. And that's interesting. And so this fella, and I'm not agreeing with his solution, but many people who are skilled enough to slave away for a corporation under the American dream ethos of to do more for less, you know, the more risk-taking types, or the ones who have networks to support them, you know, with the people who are dependent upon outside motivation, right? You know, they can do consulting. And what he's talking about is leveraging AI, not to be replaced by AI. And it really never, it's not going to be replaced by AI. It's going to be, you know, what he's talking about is, you know, it's a tool. It's many things, but it's a tool in part for the corporations to demand even more of the worker. You know, further efficiencies, and to still provide less to the worker, because, hey, we got this AI, you know, performing all these functions almost for free, you know, data centers and power, you know, a back end of power plants, and, you know, energy trading markets, and a back end of data centers and cabling and all these things. Sure. I think you know what I mean. And it wasn't my intention, but what I've realized is that so what he's saying is, unless a person somehow carves out their niche in a corporation and has leverage, which is unlikely, because the corporation is going to be much more powerful and able to, you know, and it's more incentivized to, you know, the human is in the dead flesh, right? The dead flesh wants to rest at certain points. It wants to recuperate, right? It wants to experience certain feelings and have certain pleasures and live, right? Air quotes, live a certain style of life, right? Not that these are even correct concepts. Um, the idea of living a life, invert it. In inverted world, where this place won't shut the fuck up about, how I live my life or how you live your life. Well, this is an inverted world. And what do I mean by that? Because this world's based on what I am. Now, not Benton, right? That the indivisible, overarching, supreme, uh, you know, expanding force of love and creation, supreme authority, supreme, um, the source of all energies. And so, how does this world function? By extracting and sucking off of the that energy force. So here in this realm, within these delusions and the five senses and the human mind and all of this, well, the delusion and the illusion is that it's even possible in the first place to break off a little chunk of that indivisible force of what I am, and it can go into a dead flesh called a mother, and it can then be formed into a discrete, seemingly new mass of dead flesh, and then, descend the birth canal and out of the mother's womb or matrix into this matrix or world, right? World of death, game of lies. Not possible. Not possible if you need 100% reality. Now, if you add in concepts of delusion, illusion, waking dream, surrealistic, unreality, deja vu all over again, time, space, location, place, the present moment in the context of now it's here, now it's gone, now it's here, now it's gone. Shout out to somebody I've never been a fan of, that Eckhart Tolle or whatever the fuck his name is. Right. So that's a lot. That's a Russian nesting dolls series of contexts. And then what is the agility, so-called neuroplasticity? What's the agility of the human's mind? Because if the delusion is we've individuated, right? And, this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine, which is a mockery, or something I like to refer to as Nancy Pelosi's MS-13 spark of divinity. Right. And I only mentioned Nancy Pelosi because she's the one that said it. And see here, that the key point is she was right. So, well, somebody wanted to break her balls about MS-13 and crime. She's like, hey, they got the spark of divinity. You got to treat them like they're humans. And she's correct, based on a lot of things in a context, in a commonly accepted context, she is correct. Becoming a little too forceful in my discourse. Please forgive me. Sidetracking myself already, but all of this context and background is necessary. So what is the agility or the neuroplasticity of the individual? So now I've seen certain individuals in the so-called truth community, whether they claim that designation or not, talk about, well, the mind also doesn't exist. And this is the way I think about these things. Well, either way, neither does the dead flesh. The mind and the thoughts are exactly as real as my physical face, my physical hands, this physical truck. It's equally real, right? And you could argue that the mind is more real and also more surreal. So those arguments could be made. So it's not proper to negate, and just dismiss the thought process entirely. And this is also, we can see an aspect of the normies, the NPC normie bozos, the normalizers, and back to the comfort seeking and the people who just, they want to be given a job, give me a job, right? So that they may earn their keep, earn a living, right? So called, and just rest assured and deal with their mind, but not really ever master their mind, right? And what I'm talking about, make no mistake, this is full fledged within the dead flesh. This is mastery of self, mind, body, spirit. Mastery. This is the advanced course, folks. And what I am is the advanced course. What I am is all of that. It is that battery. You know, if you think about the Matrix, and it turned out, and was that Neo achieving, true knowledge of self coming out of that tank, right? At least in a way, in the movie The Matrix, because, and it's also presumably that's the power source for the realm, is that all of those beings are plugged into the Matrix, and it's clearly a metaphor, but it's also literal, right? There, and so look at this trucking company. What powers this trucking company? Well, diesel fuel, money, right? But that's not real, right? What I am is real. That's the only thing here that is real, right? But not Benton. See, this is where it gets very confusing very fast. Not the voice you're hearing, not the physical face, not the body, not the collection of experiences, not the identity, not the psyche, not the psychology, the actual essence and spirit and, beingness of what I am. See, now, if that's what you are, good for you. Not my problem, not my concern, not my joy, not my, I don't share in the victory or the defeat, right? What I am is victory over this world of death. And that's the only point, ultimately. If you ask me, what would I wish for humanity? It's, or individuals that comprise humanity. Historically, it's been that they would think for themselves, to truly think for themselves, not go out and read a couple of books and join a couple of clubs and then pat themselves on the back and feel like they're thinking for themselves. I mean, all day, every day, think for themselves. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, good luck with that. Right. Because this world of death and game of lies has innumerable phenomena that will certainly the individual can give over their own thought process to and say, here, do my thinking for me. And as we've noted, excuse me, the general public is no longer processing data. I don't know, it's been a while. Yeah, there's exceptions, but collectively, the general public is no longer processing data. I mean, that became very clear during COVID. I just started interacting with people, said, oh, they're just not processing what's happening around them in real time. They're simply not processing it because they've been relegated to looking at all the other humans, watching what the other humans do and aping it, right? Or mimicking it. So they can turn their brains off as often as possible, So while simultaneously this world is using what I am, the essence or spirit of what I am, that quickening spirit, the source of all thesis, proposition, that's the power source or the battery for this realm. Turn on, right? Tune in, turn on, drop out, as it were. Well, the masses, they're looking to tune out. See, tune into the psyops, tune into whatever this world will give them and shut the brain off, right? And in order to get anything out of these discourses, and that's, again, I have nothing to do with that. That's your department, listener. One must, on a day in and day out basis, take charge of their thought process and take ownership of whatever they need to do for that neuroplasticity to keep their mind sharp, and to continuously work towards being able to utilize logic and reason, because that's leverage. The ability to utilize logic and reason is leverage. So after I moved out of the truck into the hotel, and once the owner got word of it, well, see, that I didn't intend that as leverage. That's leverage. Now what he's got to do is try to get the freight delivered and get me back in that truck. And this guy's very persuasive, high level salesman. I don't know to what degree he's demonized, but he's certainly demonized. And boy, I felt drained in that we had a phone conversation trying to, and everything's a negotiations. Everything's a potential negotiations in a vacuous, delusory, adversarial realm of business transactions, right? And yesterday, parts of Benton were willing to get certain jobs done, but other parts had been so drained, my own mental energies, in parts of, a big part of a big aspect of taking it to the streets for so long, is that I've developed automated processes for maintaining my own mental health. And I'll reach a certain point where I'll just shut down everything. And I'll go in and I'll focus on whatever is going on in my mind. And, I got to that point yesterday. So he had me, I let him persuade me to at least attempt to, get enough of my things together, because he wanted me to just go get the truck and move back into the truck. Well, I knew that wasn't, number one, possible. Number two, I'm not going to do that. And then, see, I hadn't quite realized that I have leverage, and it's not because the spirit of what I am, it's not able to dominate or to become authoritarian. See, that's Benton. That's the dead flesh. Benton's psychology, Benton's dead flesh is to want to start, basically unleash a Game of Thrones character, right? Unleash your Tywin Lannister or whatever, and be authoritative and dominate and power play motherfuckers and utilize leverage and threats by insinuation, right, or outright threats when necessary, and all of these things. And well, that's the dead flesh. See, the spirit of what I am can't do any of that. Now, again, within the context of a delusion in this world of death and game of lies, Benton, the performer, knows that as Benton within the context of the performance, well, there is leverage. And this system of things either leverages me as far as the matrix and using the individuated, right? So in order to individuate, then that needs to be brought back into a collective whole to suck off of, while simultaneously the individuated bits within delusion are fodder, right, for businessmen and industrialists, capitalists, right, to extract my essence. So back to the content creator talking about leverage. So what he's talking about is stepping outside of being leveraged by the corporations and then utilizing AI by doing what? Creating systems, dead systems in a dead realm in the context of business transacting, creating systems. Oh, yeah, my skin this is not good. See, there's more. You can't see it, but there's more problems on the other hand. Yeah, I'm going to have to go doctor myself after this. But just the hoodie and the jacket rubbing on my wrists there is rubbing my skin away. In the cold winter here. But either way, and so, but what's going to happen when this guy leverages these systems, creates these systems and leverages, he's not leveraging against corporations entirely. It's in movies, I think, have perpetrated this idea. And how many movies have we seen where it's like one person, or like a TV commercial, it's one person and he's swiping in the air, right? Have you seen this? Or it's a woman or a man swiping in the air, and there's all these visuals, and he's move this out of the way and bring this over, and he's doop, 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 doop. Well, that's systems, right? That's leveraging systems. Okay. And so that's sort of the predictive programming. And, that's how he's been programmed and indoctrinated to envision these things. But at the end of the day, it's master or slave. What are his systems going to do? His systems are going to combine with whatever the corporate systems are, and they're going to continue to further oppress the regular folks. And most people's regular folks, right? And as America and the infrastructure and the industry and the manufacturing, and then the information services and all of these things, and the finance, as that was all built up and built up and built up and built up, and the dead flesh wanting to have a romantic partner, father or mother, some children, live in a house, right? Live in a community, go to the store. Oh, there's Betty, and then have gossip conversations on the phone, and just the bake sales, the whole thing, right? There's this idea that left to its own devices, that's what humanity performs. No, it doesn't. Humanity waits around to be bossed. Humanity waits around to be told what to do. That's what humanity does. Humanity collectively stands around bug-eyed and fearful, just doesn't know what to do in a herd, and waits to be directed, right? That's what humanity does collectively. That's just what it does. And, that's regular folks. And then you have the predators who are circling around the herd, picking off and grabbing and, biting off fucking chunks of meat, right? And, metaphorically and literally, perhaps, And so how much of the Epstein files and the ideas of so-called cannibalistic elites, and I won't even get into the sexual side of things. Certainly, I don't even want to go there, but is some of that largely metaphorical, perhaps? But then, is it also? It can be both, right? Literal and figurative and literal, right? Parabolically. See, well, that Christ taught in parables, apparently. And is there, again, in this, when you factor in waking dreams, surrealistic, unreality, deja vu all over again, and the Kybalion concept of all truths are merely half truths and everything is mind, which I think is in part a acknowledgement of the reality as we know it individually is decoded by the mind through the five senses and all of these things. But yeah, all truths are merely half truths, and everything is mind. And then entering into this matrix, sacrificed to Moloch's machines of industrial and post-industrial society from day one by our parents, who were also sacrificed to Moloch's machine, right? And to symbolically take the highest symbol, right, of spiritual perfection, the spiritual righteousness and perfection of what I am. See, when I go read somebody's idea of what Christianity is, as I did yesterday in the YouTube comments, they're describing the dead flesh and its problems. And, they're identifying with the dead flesh and proclaiming that that's what they are. Well, if that's what they truly know and believe, then that's what they are. That's not what I am. I'm not this dead flesh. And so, and it's important to realize the guy who starts out, the talented, charismatic, handsome content creator who's trying to make a certain salary, serving, mammon or money and in business transacting. Well, he's turned off by being ran through by corporations. So what he's realizing, it's kill or be killed out here, motherfucker. You gonna serve money, it's kill or be killed. And this guy owning this trucking company, he aims to be a killer, right? Right. Well, hey, you got Benton, and maybe Benton's dead. Benton is in the dead flesh of another metaphorical killer or predator, right? Aggressive, testosterone laced, right? Rootin' tootin', as long as it's not too late in the day anyway. I am 50. Benton's dead flesh has been here 50 years. See the reframing, right? And even the confess, repent, seek forgiveness, am forgiven. Well, that's the dead flesh. What I am can't ever be in need of forgiveness. Only by falsely believing that the dead flesh is valid. The dead flesh is not valid. Death is never valid. And then you have a word invalid, or what? An invalid. A human who was under other circumstances walking around doing shit. Now they're laying in a bed somewhere and they're an invalid or invalidated. See, and no longer useful for the most part, to this tossed away, thrown away, no good, right? Same thing with this dead flesh. What good is it, right? Well, if there's a businessman from Lithuania, he's a killer. He's a stone cold charismatic salesman, tough negotiator, killer, and he's out here trying to Gordon Gekko greed his good his way to at least making enough money in trucking to go off to and I'm sure he's got other things going on for making money, right? That's his master, and that's has nothing to do with me. But what I've recognized is, and it wasn't my intention, because when properly identified based on what I know myself to be, and it's not even, myself isn't even the proper context, based on the knowledge of what I am, not who I am. Who I am is Benton. That's dead. See, there is no who is God. Then that's the same as saying God is dead, right? And I've never read any Nietzsche, right? I'm sure I've heard some people talk about Nietzsche. Apparently, some of the stuff I say on here is some of the same shit that Nietzsche came up with. I don't know, right? Same thing. God is dead. That's what you're saying, right? Now, I see that just brilliant insights falling out of Benton's ass, and I can't even remember. 5 seconds later, I can't even remember what the brilliant insight was, because who cares? It's all in the context of a world of death and a game of lies. See, you want to talk about pearls before swine? That's this world. It just goes ahead and lies and tells you what it is, and we all do this. I did. Oh yeah, pearls before swine. Oh yeah, sure. Look out! Don't cast your pearls before swine. That's this world. This world is pearls before swine. Meaning, if I'm the pearl, if what I am is the pearl, if what I am is the only thing here that's worth anything, right? This is the realm of the swine, right? This is, that's what this place is, man. Collectively. Individually, now we have, in the story of Christ, apparently, what did Christ do in the Bible? Well, one of the things he did is he ascended to the heavenlies in the context of what? Time, space, location, place. Christ ascended to the heavenlies, right? And Christ descended and traveled the underworld. Went to both places, heaven or hell realm. It's not a hell realm. It's not a hell realm. It's a crossroads, heaven or hell realm. The spirit of what I am in the context of the dead flesh in a world of death and game of lies, right? Life, and death. This world is death. What I am is the life. What I am is the way. What I am is the truth. What I am is the life. So ascension, right? Up out of this helicopter, up out of this motherfucker and look down on it. Or descend fully into it and travel through it unscathed. After what? Overcoming the limitations of the dead flesh. Because when Christ traveled the underworld, where was Christ's body? In the tomb. That's the idea of this, is and to symbolically and literally prove, oh, well, just as it can later ascend, right? Kill the body, right? If maybe the spirit does go to the underworld, perhaps, right? Well, if it's the spirit of what I am, it's return, no matter what. Have you considered my servant Job? It's going back up, right? Within the context of time, space, location, place, present moment, now it's here, now it's gone. It's ascending. Christ is risen. Christ is ascendant. See? That's the nature of Christ. It is those things. So yeah, kill the flesh, kill the body, and then the spirit may go underground or underworld, right? Only to pop back up, and now it's back in the crossroads and says, hey, I'll just go back into that body again. Oh, look, somebody, I guess, maybe rolled the rock away and came in here and put some frankincense and some myrrh and some healing oils on the flesh. And maybe it went into some, stasis, or maybe it didn't, completely die, or who knows? I don't know. Not my problem, not my concern. It's hey, it's as dead. When Christ was walking around, that flesh was as dead as after crucifixion and entombed. Same state. The flesh doesn't change states. Death can't. It doesn't. It can't happen. It can't become more dead or less dead. It's dead. Right. It can't. It's just not possible. Right. But the spirit of what I am quickens anytime it needs to do what? Avoid a weapon that's forming. And boy, some powerful spiritual weapons were forming against old Benton yesterday, and they did start to prosper. They began to prosper. And what did Benton's spirit do? Benton regrouped, right? Separated himself, did what he had to do in the short run to maintain his sanity and his mental health, right? And the spirit quickened, okay, to rise above the aim of the enemy, to always, no matter what, be able to rise above the aims of the enemy. See? And whether this, and the intention doesn't matter. And this is the gospel of Paul. And Paul was right on the money. The intention is irrelevant. This owner of this trucking company, he can have whatever intention he wants to have towards Benton. And it can be a good intention, a bad intention, an indifferent intention, a multifaceted intention. Doesn't matter. If his master, if he's serving the master of mammon, that's the relevant factor. And all it cares about is what can it extract out of Benton. That's all it can care about. Dog eat dog. Man will dominate man unto his own injury. And man meaning the dead flesh, or the son of man, the son of death. The son of death. That's what it is, right? So and to say, have you considered my servant Job, which is the inverse of have you talked to the criminal? Because in the story of Job, the book of Job, chapter 1, there's the criminal Christ. Well, see, now we're into some really subtle things, but I won't even go there. But you got the criminal shows up traveled amongst the sons of God, whatever that means, because if we have individuated beings, we're already far afield, we're already lost in delusion, right? And there goes the so-called God right there, God not defined, just says Father or God. What the fuck is that? Who or what is that, right? And peeps Satan, right? Peeps the criminal. He talks to the criminal. See, says, "Hey, criminal, what are you up to?" "Oh, you know me, just roaming to and fro, seeking whom I may devour." And the spirit of what I am, which desires, because that's its nature, right? It's always consistent with its nature. It wants to be helpful even to the criminal, right? Even to the criminal, and says, "Oh, okay. Have you considered my servant Job? Maybe," and what's in parentheses, "maybe you can prey upon him. And if you are what I am, that's you. That's this place. That's this crossroads. That's this heaven or hell realm. It's to be offered up to the criminal, right? To say, have you considered my servant Job?" Okay. Now, I would say Job was lost. See, Job was lost. Job was lost because would Job have identified as a servant? Bitten ain't a servant. See, bitten. Now it's not, "Oh, well, then you're a king." And no, bullshit. Bullshit. Wasn't Christ offered kingships and kingdoms? And it's nothing. It's dead. It's not king or servant, right? It's not king or slave. Nah, that's the wrong context. See, that's not what this thing is. It's that's why Christ, and I believe, my opinion is there's certain things have to be in the Bible, or it can't be. It has to have just enough truth to be potentially believed or passed off as the genuine article, which it's not the genuine article. But so Christ says, "I no longer consider you servant. I don't call you servant. I call you friend." So when a certain level of ascension occurs and a certain level of then victory is born out and seeps out through seemingly the dead flesh, that's not a servant. It's not a. Now, in the early part of the spiritual seeking, it's, "Hey, Lord, how do we pray?" Well, if you got to ask me to pray, I'll go ahead and say, well, clearly you're at a basic level. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, because, surely the individual is still identified with the dead flesh and is going to trespass against others. When I'm out here in the dead flesh and I'm interacting with my fellow humans, as long as I'm identified with the spirit of what I am, there is no transgression. There is no unrighteousness. There is no this Christian or church notion of, well, you're going to end up, no matter what, you're a sinning human who's going to want to do this and want to do that, and this desire and that desire. And even with the pure intention of Saul of Tarsus, right? Which Saul never had a pure intention. Let's not be crazy. But, even with what the individual believes or has fooled themselves into thinking is a pure intention, that's the idea that they're still going to be greedy and selfish and seek their own advantage, right? Well, that's a lie of the dead flesh. When properly identified within myself based on the true knowledge of self/self-realization of what I am, see, there can't be any unrighteousness. There can't be any strife. There can't be any resistance. There can't be an argument. And see, and I'll start telling a little bit of the story of where I'm at with the trucking company. And 4:00 in the morning. And where I'm at with the trucking company. So when I got to this receiver and saw that it was going to be damn near impossible for me to back into this dock and for me to do it. Yeah, I understand other people can do it. And I can do a lot of stuff in trucking that other people can't do day in and day out consistently. I don't even need to go into it. It doesn't matter. There's certain things I do And if we expect other people to do it, it's never going to happen. There's certain things almost everybody else can do in trucking by the time they get to 4 years experience. Right. Some of them by 2 years experience. That it's just never going to happen for me under certain circumstances. So there was so much traffic in and out of all these businesses, just cars. At one point, as I'm talking to the owner on the phone and describing what I'm going through, I'm just watching like 10 cars all come in at once. You know, one of them's the first one, he got in ahead of, he was going somewhere else other than the 10 cars. And, you know, he's 50 miles an hour. You know, now I'm parked on the street with the flashers on, 50 miles an hour, shoom. And then here comes, you know, a cavalcade of like, and I exaggerate, 6 sedans all in a fucking line. Half of them peel off into the place across the street. The others just kind of disperse, right? In Benton's mind, with the hypervigilance, if I can back this thing in, and it's going to take me an hour because I'm going to get out and look 100 times or 20 times, which is if I got a blind side back into this dock, I have to blind side back onto the property. And so here's what it is. I'm looking in the mirrors, and there's 2 directions I can aim the trailer. I can't, without getting out and looking, I can't determine where I'm even attempting to go. And what's going to happen is the moment I start turning the wheel to steer towards where I think I'm supposed to go, I've completely lost sight of where I'm trying to go. Now I'm just looking at a side of a trailer in a mirror. I have no idea. Is it going into the proper path? Or am I going to do all of that and then get out when I finally do have the bravery to get out and look? And they say, well, why can't you get out and look? Because getting out and looking signals to everybody around me that I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. And part of their dead flesh is that now they think, well, there's going to be something to film on their phones that they can put on their social media. And, you know, maybe he's going to crash into something. He's going to back into that light pole. It's going to be bonehead truck. Well, no, I'm never going to do any of that. Right. He's going to put the trailer up in the muddy grass over there and get it stuck, you know, or any number of things. Right. Any number of things could occur. Right. So the moment I do anything with my physicality that indicates that I don't know what I'm doing, now what's that viewed as by the humans, the dead? And this is not, see, we've been lied to and we've been told that humanity's wonderful. Humanity's dead. Okay. Humanity is dead. This idea of, and you hear Alex Jones promoting these transhumanists and these wacko lefties and this idea of, you know, maybe humanity should just be eliminated for the good of the planet and all of this. Well, humanity's as dead as the nature's dead. I hate to break it to you. Yeah, Niagara Falls, the splendor of the Grand Canyon, the mountains, the fucking streams, the birds of the air, touch grass. Sure, dead. It ain't alive, folks. It's not living. It can't live. It's a machination. It's a machination. It's a machination created via delusion, via the subversion of the creative force of what I am. So when Christ was put on trial for sedition, part of the prosecution's accusations was framing it, attempting to take Christ's own statements and rhetoric and frame them in a way to say he's calling himself God, right? And the only thing Christ could say is, well, that's what you say, right? And believe me, if that was my knowing, I would just say it that way. Now, part of that is the moment the individual signs on to a beingness of air quotes God, who is what? God's a who, not a what. When the Bible refers to air quotes so-called God, which that's why I have to put the so-called air quotes on it. That's a who. And if you really want to trigger a Christian and they want to get into because a lot of these Christians want to start this sort of rhetorical debate and, oh, well, who is God or what, and I'm like, well, and I won't even engage with that. I'm like, well, no, what is God? Not who. And then now they're like, okay, well, you're one of those. It's like, well, I don't know what you mean by one of those, but, we're going to have to start with examining what is implied by referring to air quotes so-called God as a who, right? A person. Well, how is there even a personhood or a personage, right? I think you can only have a personage or a personhood within the context of delusion. God, right? All powerful being, this supreme authority, righteousness, source of all unfolding, expanding creation, victory itself. See, that ain't a who. And the moment that can be encapsulated with a who, this world knows that who is dead. That's a dead who. So you say, who is Benton? Dead. And that's not an identity. That's the nature of a who is dead, right? Humanity is dead, right? This world is dead. It can never be completely real. Everything that exists that can never truly be in the unfolding, right? Again, beyond the concept of time, space, location, place, outside of the seeming limitations of times of now it's here, now it's gone, present moment. See, 100% experiential reality, indivisible, because the moment it can be individuated or divided, it can be made to behave in ways where it's divided against itself, and then it cannot stand. And that's why Christ in the Bible, he used the accusations of the Pharisees and the Sadducees, because they finally had to acknowledge, well, yes, he is casting out these demons. And they said, maybe he's doing it in the name of Beelzebub. And Christ saw his opportunity to drop some truth bombs and said, if hate drives out hate, Satan's kingdom is divided against itself, and how can it stand? Meaning it can't be this powerful thing it proclaims itself to be if it will send its own servant to perform a driving out of a demon, right? Because if hate drives out hate, then that's a kingdom divided against itself. See? And that's the acknowledgement that what Christ is and was, which is the same as what I am, same thing, same phenomenon, same indivisible force. See, that's the only thing that's 100% possibly real. And everything else that cannot, after the have you considered my servant Job, everything that cannot join the everything else at the level seemingly of 100% unmitigated reality. This is what we are, right? That the force itself, everything that's even one fucking level below that is dead. And I mean everything. So have you considered my servant Job? Because that might be dead man walking. We just don't know it yet, because if you look at a condemned killer, if you remember that movie, Dead Man Walking, well, when he walked the halls of elementary school, let's say a lot of them killers and people, they didn't make it past the 8th grade or whatever. Let's say he made it to primary school. When he was walking the halls of primary school, he was dead man walking. And so was everybody else in the class. And so was Benton's dead flesh. Dead man walking. The Son of Man is dead. Just what it is. So, antithesis, this world of death, these game of lies, it makes its business and it transacts in having people treat death as if it were life. See? Let's have individuated delusory bits. Antithesis says, oh, well, let's subvert that creative force and use delusion, and let's individuate those bits, put them into a dead flesh over here through our, through whatever witchcraft, and then we'll blame all that on God as a person. We'll say, oh, well, the so-called heavenly Father, man in the sky, for he so loved death, the world, he so loved death, that he said, well, we got to have us a Benton, and we got to have us a Susie, and we got to have us a whatever your name is, and we got to have us a whoever your parents are or were, because of love. And those are all the machinations of a phenomenon called antithesis or antichrist, and it only knows life based on a lack of life, aka death. And now we have antithesis would certainly have to recognize that antithesis. Oh, if let's say antithesis is now a person or antichrist is a person, well, it would know, right? It would know that it's the lack of that indivisible force. It's cut off. It's never not cut off from that indivisible force. See, and it knows this, so it understands life, love, authority, justice, tolerance from the perspective of the complete and total lack of all of those traits. It's an expert in those traits, in the ways that a beautiful woman in her fertility at a certain age is an expert in masculinity and an expert in, hey, here's some genetics worth, forming some new dead flesh. Let's take some of that man's genetics, combine it with her genetics, right? And then it will, there will be a gestation period in a matrix or womb to then have a new individuated being, a seemingly new individuated being, pass from one matrix into another, to be preyed upon and to symbolize, right? To symbolize spiritual innocence, perfection, righteousness, supreme authority, love, creation. And then, hey, dead man walking. See? Dead man walking. And so, to bring it back to the story of this trucking company and what this owner wants and leverage, right? And see, Benton can't perform. Benton cannot be properly identified and go out here and Tywin Lannister his way through the world. And I never watched Game of Thrones, but I've been watching some of the AI fucking slop breaking down some of the psychological dynamics, which I find fascinating. So, and here's what's interesting, because a lot of people poo-poo astrology. But how come I can listen to, by the 10th scene, I've listened to Tywin Lannister, and I'm born in August, a Leo, right? Sun in Leo. And I start to think, well, this is a Leo. But he doesn't seem like a Leo. And he doesn't a lot of his presentment, he don't present as a Leo. And that's the idea that the rising sign or the ascendant that has more to do with how people see you, especially initially. And then, the so-called face one presents to the world, right? Whereas the Leo side, that's his inner space, right? Or more of the true nature. And I'm like, that's got to be a Leo, man. So I Google it, because, there's websites where people have, and sometimes within the show, it might say, well, this is their birthday. And then, you use that to get their astrological sign. But I Google it. Yeah, he's a fucking Leo. Of course he is. So you can poo-poo it all you want. So that's why I'm using the example of Tywin Lannister, because that's the one character that I've noticed the most similarities with in my own, the idea of the dark triad, or, Machiavellianism, certain, lack of empathy, and certain things like that. Manipulation, I guess some of that's tied up in Machiavellianism. And so when I'm, interacting with this company owner, and I recognized this in 2011 when I did my dating and relationships podcast, upperhanddating.com. And unfortunately, none of that audio exists that I've ever found, which is a shame. That would be fascinating. The website, upperhanddating.com, you can go read the articles, but that I wrote. But that's more of ins and outs of actually dating from a male perspective. The podcast, I did an entire episode on, is manipulation inherently bad? And my conclusion was that, maybe other than maybe a mother's love for her child, her newborn, but, then again, she's allowed it to be sacrificed to Moloch, but that's a whole nother story. But other than maybe that, you get into my conclusion back in 2011 is that the basis of all human interaction is manipulative or manipulation. The trucking company owner is always trying to get something out of me when we interact, and I'm always trying to get something out of him when we interact, whether we acknowledge it or not. And that interplay, so, the Tywin Lannister dead flesh, bitten as authoritative, dominating, victorious Leo, warrior, right? Commander, leader, right? Leadership, commanding authoritative leadership. Well, part of that is, I start spazzing out on with the neurodivergence and the undiagnosed fake autism. I'm doing my best not to spaz out on my dispatcher, but I'm starting to spaz out on him a little bit, because part of that is he doesn't know. Part of Tywin Lannister not spazzing out is he's got everybody trained not to. And I hesitate to say argue with. When I say true shit and I'm the one at the place on the ground, I don't want to be manipulated. I don't want to be cajoled. I don't want to be assured. I don't want to be given suggestions. I want to communicate, hey man, I'm here. This is what it is. I'm telling you where we're at, because it's a teamwork. I don't want to be told, oh, well, go find somebody to do the flagging for you by people who've never driven a truck. And I'm like, listen, man, there's no such thing as that. Doesn't exist. I don't know what you're talking about. And then he tries to describe what he means. I'm like, brother, that doesn't exist. So what would Tywin Lannister start behaving like in Game of Thrones if a lot of his interactions came down to he's conveying a message only to have people attempt to argue with the message? Would he humor that for half a second? Of course not. He would shut that shit down. So here I am on the phone trying to, as politely as possible, convey what I need to convey, but I'm not humoring this. It's foolishness and folly. Tywin Lannister don't entertain any foolishness and folly that's counterproductive and runs against what he's trying to do. Because I gave my solution to the dispatcher. The problem is he can't understand the solution. I told him, you know what? I might be able to hit this dock. Not in the middle of the day when cars are coming in and out. Impossible. I said, so unless y'all come up with something different, I'm going to wait until tonight or tomorrow early in the morning when nobody's fucking here, and I'm going to back this bitch in, and then I may still not be able to do it. And so later on, after I got to talking to the owner of the trucking company, his plan was, he said, well, I don't have any drivers in Chicago, because last time this has happened before. Last time this happened, they had a team, a man, woman, husband, wife team was close enough, and they showed up in a couple of hours. And because he was an old head, started driving trucks in the 80s, he just jumps right in my truck and, you know, lickety split. He gets out and looks once, and because it was tough. I mean, it's everything that's tripping me up is fucking difficult, but he did exactly what I said would happen. He did it within 5 minutes. He just started backing up, and then he got out and looked at it, and he said, okay, that's where my tires need to be. And then he fucking didn't even have to pull up. He had to pull up. He had to do like half a pull up, right? So because Benton with space to pull up, if I can do 3 pull-ups, 4 pull-ups, if I can do 4 half pull-ups, I got this bitch. There's no space for even one proper pull-up. See? And now where I'm trying to, they got me trying to deliver, it's a blind side with no space for a pull-up. Meaning you basically got to put that bitch in there perfectly. And there's guys who will pull into a truck stop. There's one space available. They've already seen the Benton. They've already seen that if Benton is circling around and if he's going to try to get in that last space, he can't blindside, and they will look at the situation and they will perfectly blindside that motherfucker in and never put a scratch on anybody's tractor. I will never be able to do that. Ever. It's never going to be possible. And the owner of the company has accepted that because he's trying to extract from Benton. And he's willing to accept that because leverage forced him. See, leverage forced him. And so so part of Benton reaches a crossroads within himself after I get off the phone with the dispatcher and I talk to the owner, and then, he's basically saying, hey man, we don't have a nearest driver to you who's available is in Tennessee, 5 hours away or whatever it is. And who knows? That's what he said. And but see, I don't believe him necessarily because he's so persuasive. He'll just tell me whatever he's got to tell me. And the manipulation is there where he could be trying to get me to feel bad. See, and meanwhile, I don't give a fuck. Do I give a fuck? Now, I'd rather another truck driver not be put in a bad situation, but Benton don't give a shit. Okay. So he's saying, so to prevent that from happening, potentially, will you pretty please with sugar on top? Right. Because he figured out he's got to talk to me a certain type of way, or I'll just start reading him the fucking riot act. And I don't want to read the riot act. Because that's improper identification. The moment I'm reading somebody the riot act, as I started to do, and that's the thing about reading someone the riot act, if I'm meditative enough and I'm observant enough, the moment I start reading the dispatch, the riot act, I can go, the light bulb comes on and says, well, wait a minute, buddy. You can't read him the riot act and simultaneously because the only way to read him the riot act is to be improperly identified with the dead flesh, to consider this world and this trucking business and this truck and this dock to be 100% real. That's a violation. And what I left out of the prior discourse was curse and blessing. See, I got to the meat and I didn't give you the meat. See, it's this realm is always trying to get blessing to manifest as if it were a curse. And that is blasphemy in the Holy Spirit, the only so-called unforgivable sin, right? The only one. And so I already know what's going to happen, right? I know I'm going to go into the building. And so what he wants is he realizes that, Benton's spirit, I've helped him to realize that my spirit may be willing, but at a certain point, I'm just going to shut down, and I'll agree on the phone. I'll be like, yeah, that sounds great. And I'll, do my best. And my best might be, I got to go sit in the truck and shut the fuck down for 45 minutes, or we can have an autistic freak out, which at this point, that's a very unlikely to occur. You want to talk about leveling up, level up to verge of autistic freak out, and then don't have an autistic freak out, right? An undiagnosed fake autistic freak out. get there, but don't do it. And I might have to continue this en route. I'm going to have to, here in about 30 minutes, I'm going to have to fire this rig up and go over and check on my trailer, or the company's trailer rather, because I'm still in do not disturb mode, and within a couple of hours the company's going to be wanting to contact me. So hang on, let me go tell it where we're going real quick. Where are we going? Oh, there we're going. All right, good deal. 5 minutes, 2.6 miles away. And and here's what's funny. See, I've gotten to where, and this is how I got through the first, because this was the second of two drops. I got to the first drop, also a nearly impossible dock. Thankfully, the freight that was on the truck, they were willing to just let me assist them in unloading it by hand. And they said, well, if there was a pallet, of course. And I said, listen, I could hit this dock. It's just, it might take me an hour, and y'all are going to have to stay the fuck out of the way. And yeah, if you need me to, I will, but it's probably better for everybody, and sometimes people, and that's called no spiritual attack. And I felt it. See, I felt the second drop. I just knew it was maximum spiritual attack. And I've gotten to where I pray. And again, I need a better word for prayer, but I say these words that assist me in affirming my commitment on an ongoing basis to proper identification. That's probably a better way to put it. And so I did that before the first stop, and I did that before the second stop, and I did it again when I got to the second stop, because I immediately detected, oh, this is spiritual attack. So much so that I'm sitting in my truck on the side of the road. And so first I get out and I survey the situation on foot. And I think, well, probably I got to back in off the road and do a blind side, but I won't know until I go in forward. Because I need the truck. I need the rig there on the property, because sometimes it'll look like it's not possible to get in on a conventional back, but it is. And I'm pretty fucking good at those. And we have something called an alley dock, which is like, here's the dock, here's the dock, and the truck is like this. The truck is completely at a 90-degree angle, right? And the alley dock, you got to swing that bitch all the way, right? And I've even done a beyond 90-degree before, which a lot of people would just assume is impossible. It's not. If a person knows how to tail swing the fuck out of the trailer and do those little pull-ups. But see, here's the thing about the little pull-up. People have been trained that when they do the little forward pull-up, all they're doing is taking the angle out of the fifth wheel. And that's viewed as you don't know what you're doing. See, I take something that visually looks like I don't know what I'm doing, and I use it to my advantage. I know that, I can see the ass of my trailer, and I can do a mini pull up, and then I can start backing again, and I can watch it moves half a foot, and I see that, okay, I got to do another mini pull up, and then I back up again, and it's like, nope, not enough. Another mini pull up. It's like, okay, now that's the proper angle. Now I can start counter steering to swing my tractor underneath the trailer. I almost never see anybody do that. See, because I have my own way of doing things, and I'm never not going to have my own way of doing things. And I'm supposed to have my own way of doing things. So I drive in forwards because I do have pretty good backing skills overall. I know I can back that bitch right back out without hitting any curbs, without blowing up a drive tire against a curb, as I did one time in a Walmart parking lot because I hit a tall curb going too fast with the drive tire. I've mastered all of this to some extent, and I back onto the street, but I'm facing a different building. And this is why I'm going to get back to the spiritual attack. There's two fellas, two white guys, younger than me, white guys, in a box truck. And I can tell, okay, now I'm going to start doing my U-turn to start figuring out, am I really going to try to back this bitch in? How's this going to go? And I know that the moment I start rolling forward, that's when they're in a box truck, and I can tell they're about to leave that dock. But I'm just going to wait them out because I know the moment I start rolling, they're coming out. Right. And here's how I knew that. And this proves it, because I sat there so long and they had their conversation and I saw their hand gestures, and one of them even pointed out something there was nothing going on in that parking lot. He's pointing something out. They're biding time. The demons are biding time, see, to spiritually attack old Benton. They pulled up and I just completely ignored them. I'm staring off the other way and they start rolling. I feel it. I say, these motherfuckers are going to talk to me, and I'm happy to talk to them, whatever. They pull up next to me. I roll my window down, and I think maybe they're going to try to assist me. That's the worst case scenario. But they're like, hey, are you going into that place, where they're leaving out of? I'm just like, no, man. And they say, oh, okay. And I just give a thumbs up. I'm like, no, man. And give them a thumbs up. Your work is done. I got this. But I don't got this, but I got this. And they're like, oh, okay, have a nice day, blah, blah, blah. They're gone. And so then I start trying to back. And what happens the moment I start trying to back? Cars, 45 miles an hour, 50 miles an hour, leaving businesses. It's multiple small maneuvers have to be done. I got to do this little maneuver, that little maneuver, this little maneuver, might need to pull up a little bit, do a little. It's like 30 little maneuvers to even get into their property backing in on the blind side. Right. And so now I look up, here's somebody. Well, if I stay where I'm at, he's got enough room to go around. He can't even figure that out. But see, here's what humans want to do. Because they're in the dead flesh and they're in the world, they're of the world while they're in the world. See, they want to sit there and feel whatever they're feeling and be inconvenienced and maybe have an excuse for why they're late. They probably don't want to go where they're going. They probably don't want to do what they're going to do when they get there. They're dissatisfied. They're disenfranchised. We understand the state of humanity, the dead state of dead humanity. And they're happy to sit there however long it takes. Well, I don't know how long it's going to take, and I might need to pull up towards them, and pretty soon there's going to be 10 cars lined up, and now Benton has just hijacked the entire street. And now if I continue trying to back in, all it's going to take is a couple of vehicles to try to leave one or two of those properties, and now it's just a complete traffic jam. So every single time a car approaches from the front, I have to stop what I'm doing, get the fuck out, walk up to them and say, either, hey, and so like this guy, the first guy, I didn't even acknowledge that he's, could just go the fuck around because he doesn't know. And I haven't, remember, getting out and looking is the worst thing I can communicate to the environment. It's the best thing I can do for the job. It's the worst thing I can do for the environment. So I haven't even looked over there yet. So I'm just addressing the side I can see, which I'm blocking. And all I'm going to do is go tell him, hey, man, if you stay where you're at, once I pull up, just go ahead. Just go for it. Right. Don't worry about me. So meanwhile, as I walk up to him, I'm telling him that. And then I'm also saying, or you could, now I see that he's got plenty of space, or you can go around on the right, which in some way indicates that he knew all along that he could get by. He's choosing to engage in this drama of, oh my God, there's a big rig and this guy may not know what he's doing. And maybe he's going to crash into a light pole or a building or a car. Who knows what the fuck's going to happen. And he's just involved in a drama. Right. And he prefers that drama on some level. Oh, I got to go back to the room and get to the tablet. Fuck. Anyway, before I roll out, I'll try to wrap this up. Let's just keep it going. Shit. So after all that occurs, and I talk to the dispatch, and I've already talked to the dispatch, and then after the owner of the company calls me and wants me, so I tell the dispatch what I'm up against, and his solution is get a flagger. Because I've communicated that, hey, this is impossible based on the traffic. And I said, someone would have to come out here and direct traffic. And he then converts that into flag me, right? Meaning in his world, he's in a desk somewhere wanting me to deliver a load. So all he's basically like, okay, just block the fucking road, take over everything, and then have somebody flag you. But, sir, there is no flagging. That doesn't exist. That's not a thing. This is not an aircraft carrier and somebody's out there with the fucking 2 flashlights. This is not that. This is never that. I'm talking about multiple human beings need to go out to the road and don't let nobody into this motherfucker. And somebody else is going to have to be at these driveways and don't let nobody out. And then it's still going to take me 10 minutes to get onto their property to start backing this bitch in. And what I've learned in trucking is there's almost a 0% chance of anybody getting out there and stopping traffic. It happened one time for me in Omaha, Nebraska at a very busy mall that I delivered to, like on a Saturday, and it was noon. It was busy as the mall's ever been in its entire history. And there's been in with the cars in the parking lot backing into a fucking dock, right? I mean, total insanity. And, you know, they came out there and stopped traffic so I could leave, right? Because the cars just didn't care and would just trap me in as much as possible. But that's okay. Yeah, suck it up, Buttercup. And that's the solution to everything. It's just that, and that's the extraction process. The extraction process is the driver never says no to anything and just does whatever he's told, no matter how foolish, right? By people who wouldn't even attempt any of this for 5 seconds, right? The owner of the company apparently drove a truck just long enough to realize that he doesn't want to drive a truck, which is totally fine. I get it. And if he really did drive a truck for any period of time, good on him. But, you know, at this point, if I want to keep, let's just call it what it is. If I want to keep working in trucking, I got to take my ass to the oil field. That's just what it is. You know, because this guy's already implying that this might be my last go round in trucking, and what he's again, Game of Thrones. We've had the conversation where he can fuck up my permanent record in trucking if he so chooses. But what I told him is, well, that's on you, buddy. I don't control that. If you're willing to deal with whatever the consequences, you know, whatever karma comes with that, that's on you, pod. No, I don't have any control over that. So I don't know, why are you talking to me? Did you talk to the criminal? And but he's also acknowledging that, you know, hey, you know, part of me hiring you was you had to put the sales job on me, and he understands that I probably got a whole lot of no's before I came to him, and when he's right. So, I told him that. I said, yeah, it was way harder for me to get a job this time around, because at a certain point the industry just says, oh, he's a job hopper, and you know, anything that's not a worst of the worst job, just you can't get hired. So, anyway, I'm going a little too much into that. So now I have to go talk to somebody at the facility, and the owner understands I'm probably in the process of shutting down on some level. And, you know, we're going to hope that maybe they'll be willing to pallet jack it, right? Get the forklift, get the pallet jack, put the fucking pallet jack in the truck, you know, or if we're lucky, manually unload the truck out in the parking lot, which they're never going to do this. These places that have docks that are actually that an expert backer can hit, they're never unloading in the parking lot. Unless it's like the first stop where they're like, well, if it was a pallet, we'd have to. But if it's not a pallet, we understand that this is a bitch. So since we're not spiritually attacking you, then yeah, sure, we're more than happy if you'll help us. And I offered, I was like, oh yeah, I'll jump in and I'll help you and blah, blah, blah. I'll do whatever I can do. And I was also willing to hit the dock if I had to. And it was doable on a conventional back, not a blind side. But either way, so now I go talk to the guy, right? Remember, it's Monday morning. It's first thing Monday morning. There's already been multiple of these trucks for this company, multiple of these Sprinter vans coming in, and everybody's disgruntled and grumpy from the weekend. And so I ring the bell and open the door, and here comes Peter, the Gen Z, affable, friendly, you know, seems like a good dude. And he's basically like, yeah, that's a hard no to all of that. And my owner of my company wanted a point of contact, and he said, yeah, because my owner of my company called, got the voicemail. They can't get a human on the phone. Left a message, not getting a call back. So the owner of the company wants me to put him in touch with somebody. He said, or hand them the phone while you're standing there talking to them. Well, I forgot that part. Once I go into glad handing the public, once I go into soft skills mode, you know, um, once I go into falling on my sword metaphorically and just surrendering to the process of, hey man, I'm here and I know you're in charge and I fully accept what Peter's telling me. I forget the part where the owner wanted me to whip out my phone and say, well, would you talk to the owner of the company? And it wouldn't have mattered because the owner of the company could be as persuasive as he wants. He's on the other end of the phone, and Peter's job is to say, yeah, we're not doing any of that. And, in a nice way, he'll give you 5 minutes of your time. And the first words out of Peter's mouth indicated how busy he is and that he's got shit to do and they're shorthanded. But he conveyed it in a very pleasing way, right? He sent the message of, hey, I don't even have time to talk to you, buddy, but you're here and I'm here, so I'm going to give you 3.5. I'm going to give you 2.5 minutes, and then I'm going to, try to not have you keep me another 2.5, so I can get back to work. Because he's in a corporate setup that's also extracting maximum productivity from him while giving him the least in return, lest we forget. See, Peter. So it's a hard no to everything, as I knew it would be. And it's not that Peter spiritually attacked me, but so now I'm back to the rig, and I don't even call the company because I know they're going to call me at some point. I just sit on the street for 45 minutes and I'm just there. I was like, well, what do I do? And then so the owner calls me and he's like, all right, well, and now he's just hoping, right? He's hoping because he's not managing certain aspects of his business. He's leaving it for the driver to solve the problems. So he starts trying to do damage control and say, oh, well, I knew you weren't going to be able to hit that. And not in a condescending way. He's like, I knew you weren't going to be able to hit that dock and that I was going to have to bring in another driver. Now, I didn't call him to the carpet. I should have said, yeah, sure, motherfucker. Well, why am I here then? Why is the other driver not here? Why have we not coordinated this? I could be, on my fucking break. We could do this shit in the morning. Like any number of, like, you see what I mean? The fact that I'm there, because he knows if I get there at the right time and just the fucking planets align, next thing you know, I've hit the dock, right? Like he's playing the 1 in a million chance, right? Maybe Benton miracles his ass and the ass of the trailer into the dock, right? Like maybe that does happen. So he's trying to live in that world. And I gotta go grab this tablet and I'll be right back. And we'll finish this up. Actually, I'm just gonna kill the camera and take you with me. Yeah. Or maybe keep the camera. Yeah, I'll kill the camera because I'll end up doxing myself if I don't kill the camera. We've been down that road. Dox my location. Yep. All right. Stairs. I don't know where the stairs are. Apologies for the door slam there. Oh yeah, let's take the charger. Take the charger. Okay. Sure got my key card. Yep. Right. Now we're going to the trailer. We're coming right back over here. And the for 10 freaking Uber rides. Spent $50 on Uber rides and tips yesterday. So I'm a tipper. That's a good reason to never wait tables. You don't want to have to become somebody who tips over generously, right? I'm kind of joking there. I mean, what better use of my money than give it to a person, right? I don't know. I mean, maybe not. Excuse me. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Yeah, I mean, I don't even know. I have no idea if I went into airplane mode and went to sleep. I don't fucking know. I didn't even bother to call the owner and tell him. And I know I'm kind of jumping ahead in the story, but there's quite a bit more to this saga, actually. Believe it or not. Quite a bit more to this saga. Oh, I gotta boot up this. Oh, excuse me. Sorry about that. I didn't have time to get to the cough button. I guess I should have took a leak. Oh, did I turn this bitch off? Why did I do that? Can't save that much battery. Anyway, you can't really see me on camera too much, I don't think, while I'm actually driving. I don't have the angle for it. But I guess you're welcome to whatever little bit you can see. GPS going. It's going to take that tablet a minute. A hot minute. Whatever that means. Man, I knew I should have got fuel. I almost got fuel. It's fucking Loves, man. There's a lot of places there's no Loves. Ain't no love in this world, right? Yo, y'all can't see me anyway, so fuck it. Camera off. We're headed to the where the hopefully the trailer is, and then we come back here to decide if we're even willing to. Because at this point, I'll deliver this load, and then I'm coming back empty. Because he's already talking about wanting me to deliver this thing 285 miles away, and then get loaded. And once I start taking more loads, it's just now I'm back to truck driving. So it's like, yeah, I'll just anyway. I don't even want to get into it. See, I'm already going identified with the dead flesh. See, I feel it happening. Leverage, and part of that leverage is I'm probably done with long haul, and at age 50, I'm on the tail end of somebody who can still probably go to the oil field at least for a time and work for a company just long enough to get exploited to be able to buy my own truck, live in my own truck, and get, at least get enough work to, do what I want to do or when anyway, it doesn't even matter. But I'm starting to formulate a plan, and it doesn't seem to involve continue working this job. So there's always that. But anyway, shopping. We're cruising over to the check on the trailer. Because, like I say, it's a chance. Because some of these towns, and I'm pretty sure, although it's technically not in Waukesha, some of these little towns, some of these municipalities, you can't park a fucking high profile vehicle on the street anywhere for more than, it might be 12 hours here, meaning we're still, they might still tow it though. It's just, that's if they're going by what they claim to go by, right? I mean, or somebody could steal it. It's a perfectly good trailer just there for the taking. Could also be stolen. And here's leverage, not my fucking problem. The only thing that can happen to me is he can, if he's willing to, he can have me fucked over as far as making it look like I did not go to a drug test, right? And all I can do is tell whatever agencies exist that I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Nobody ever told me anything about a drug test. And then you're just, at that point, I'm just in the system of, they either fix it right away or now it's just SAP program. Yeah, dummy. Exactly. Go the fuck around. It's funny to pull it out, and then next thing I know, there's a car back there normalizing a big rig with a cold engine going 15 miles an hour because I don't want to romp on it before the engine warms up. And then they finally pulled their head out of their ass and was like, wait a minute, I'll just pass him. Yeah, exactly, dummy. Some lady followed me right into the delivery yesterday, the second drop. She easily could have passed me on the bigger road, just followed me right in. That shit never would have happened in the old days. One of the first things I learned in driving a car was, pass that big rig because he might exit in front of you and you might be going to the same place or almost the same place. So pass that motherfucker now. Right. And now people almost prefer to follow the bigger rig. Let's just follow them on in. It's like, what? For what? What are we doing? I'm confused.
Anyway, this will be interesting. But assuming it's back into the dock, I'll go back later. They'll unload the freight, and uh, if the owner okays it, I will take it to 285 miles away, and then I will get fuel en route and um, hypothetically, I could still get back here on my own dime if I had to, but I'm coming back empty, and that's just what it is. And at that point, I'm going to recommend that he has that bitch towed to Chicago, most likely, unless he's very persuasive. He might actually talk me back into long haul trucking, because I can't pretend like that's not a possibility. Yeah, it's possible. It's seeming very very unlikely, but it's possible. And this is that extrication I've talked about for so long, and I don't know that folks ever really understood. And I'm not even completely understanding. Obviously, I've certainly not mastered that process. And so the extrication was always, this is the first job I've ever had where I did not. When I started with Snyder, I didn't own a car, but they had a terminal. So once I could afford it, I bought a car, and the car stayed at the terminal. So I had when I did eventually quit, um, moved out of the truck into my car and drove the fuck away. And that's how I've quit every trucking job until this one, because there is no car. And the reason why there is no car is there is no terminal. See, now I might perhaps be persuaded to bring it to Chicago, because I'm pretty sure I can get shouldn't be too tough to get from Chicago to Milwaukee, and then from Milwaukee to Waukesha. That shouldn't be too tough on my own. A couple of Ubers, an Uber, and take a bus, a few buses maybe. Hopefully not the Greyhound, mainly just because it takes for fucking ever. And I can tell some of this stuff, this guy just doesn't know what the fuck he's doing, the owner of the company. Because, if I was him, I would have been wanting to know, well, where are you? How can I contact you? Leave the key with the front desk, maybe. There's any number of things he could have done, but he was committed to this course of persuading me to continue doing this job. But leverage is, well, I've moved into a hotel, so my main concern when I'm out on the road is, if something happens, is this now the time I walk away from my belongings? Well, it's not on the street. Oh, it is. Oh no, that trucker's on the street, and he's hooked up to his trailer. It looks like. Yep. So mine's in the dock, as I suspected was going to happen. Now, see this is leverage. If I'd have tried to have a conversation with the owner, this is almost impossible he still would have tried to get me to, because he wanted me to move back into the truck, or at least stay with the truck and trailer, right? And hang on, I'm going to tell it to take me back to because I can't say I have no sense of direction, but it's certainly limited, as we know. Is that where I'm going? Yeah, that's where I'm going. And when you have somebody that persuasive and the dead flesh, Benton's not willing to identify with the dead flesh to have any more knockdown drag outs. And he doesn't want the knockdown drag out. But, that takes away something, Now he's threatened to fuck up my record in trucking and put an they call it abandonment, putting abandonment on my record. And, if he really fucks me over with the clearinghouse, I mean, it's pretty much a wrap because I'm just not going to go through the fucking substance abuse program. That's just not going to happen. It costs a lot of money, and it's just, I'm not doing all that. It wouldn't be worth it to me. And then once a person has that, they can't get hired by anybody decent anyway. Nobody working for will hire a SAP driver, and why would they? And then at that point, I don't think I could even work. I can't even work in the oil field without going through the SAP program. And so then it's just no more trucking. So, which then, kind of says, well, why even bother to go into the oil field at all? Hang on. I got to do a U-turn up here. I can't quite get back to where I'm going from where I just left. It's a weird, the way the roads are laid out is not really efficient. Probably ought to take this bitch on the highway, and we're still not up to normal operating temperature. See if the heater's working yet. Yeah, heater's working. Now the real question is this guy still there? Because the owner doesn't even know if I'm coming back or not, or is that guy just there because he's out of hours? I don't really know. The other driver, who apparently didn't get there till 11 p.m. or so, or maybe later, and again, there's a chance I would have failed when nobody was around, and there's a chance that I would have been able to do it. I would have tried, right? The back end. And part of this is I don't want to continue to do a job where most of the other drivers can do backing maneuvers that I'm simply not capable of. Like, that's what I told him. I said, I'm real hard on myself, man. I'm competitive. I'm hard on myself, And here's how I get moved into the hotel. I never told this part of the story. What got me moved into the hotel is I honestly thought he was going to fire me because what he told me. So after the 45 minutes went by, and he called me and he was like, "Hey, what's going on? What's the update?" And again, I was just my only goal at that point is to avoid yelling at everybody. Again, to stay properly identified, and I'm just checked out at that point. I'm just like, yeah, it's a no-go. I went and talked to him, and now he wants to paint a picture like I've done something wrong because, he's like, well, great communication, which is fine. I don't mind a passive aggressive comment here and there, but it's like, I'm just looking at it like I'm hard on myself. I'm kind of trying to see my way out of this thing anyway, to some extent. But yeah, I probably might be okay to at least work till it gets too hot to work. But even then, I still have to extricate myself. If I was him, I would fire me. But maybe, see, now we're back to leverage. Maybe it's so hard to find drivers. And then, I did make a couple of mistakes last week, like he acknowledged on the phone later on when we were talking. He got into, brought up that, see, this is no U turn. I went 3.5 hours to Fargo, North Dakota, 3.5 hours farther than I was supposed to, and had to come 3.5 hours back the next day or the day after. And that was just sort of because that shows you how, again, back to leverage, that shows you how good of a job I've been doing. And they've strategically decided that don't even get mad at him or have a talking to, right? And then I killed another, so that was 7 hours I killed, and then I killed another 7 hours or 5 hours when I left my when I managed to leave my wallet. There's the cops, and I don't know if I'm legal I don't know if I'm legal on a U-turn or not there. I'm not going to give him the chance to. It's probably already eyeballing me. And sometimes, man, truckers are a fucking target a lot of the time. You know, or he's just sitting there texting a side piece or whatever he's doing. But I will do a U-turn here, and if he tries to make an issue of it, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But and see the GPS thinks I can do a U-turn there, but I made it in the bobtail, but I don't know if the trailer would have made it through there. Not without probably taking the whole road on the side I was turning from. Yeah, he's just chilling like a villain. I probably should run this bitch down the freeway, but I don't think I want to risk. There's enough interchanges and bullshit here that. Oh, it does want me to. Oh shit, that was my turn. Oops. I see. I'm already going the right. This is confusing. See, I thought that road took me onto the interstate, but it doesn't. Oh, am I gonna have to go do another U-turn? Wow. In front of the cop again? Motherfucker. No. At least now we can maybe get this bitch up to temperature. See, the GPS ain't perfect. This is a longer route, but I would say this leads me to believe I could have I think I could have dropped a little waypoint where it said to do the U-turn and said avoid area, and I think it would have given me a longer route without me having to try to do a U-turn. Almost up to temp. Almost. Of course, it's just going to get cold again, so I guess it doesn't really matter. Now, does it? Oh, trucks tearing up the roads. Well, all right. now I've finished telling my story and I finished my routine, and I'm gonna when I get around to it, I'm gonna because I'm in do not disturb mode on my phone. I'll come out of do not disturb mode and I'll deal with whatever the company wants to talk to me about. And I'm gonna beat him up a little bit because I already looked at now. I looked at the third drop and I don't think they have a dock. And uh, so I guess they'll have to just unload me in the street. But it's going to be I've already looked at it. It's going to be a pain in the ass to even get that accomplished. You say, oh, that's your job. I don't know. Is it? Maybe. What if I take this? What if take this job and shove it? I ain't working here no more. Maneuvering the parking lot to try to get back where we started. I should have just went all the way around the building. I think I will. I think that'll be easier. We'll just go all the way around the building. So I can get through here. This is one of the bazillion reasons I prefer to do everything as early as possible. There's nothing stirring out here. Not even a proverbial mouse. Just constantly going to places I don't fit. That's just world of death, right? Constantly in places and positions where what I am don't fit and is treated like it's guilty. Because here's another thing, what the hell do I do with this? You know, what the hell do I do with this truck and trailer? I mean, really, if I was him, I would just say, all right, Benton's a lost cause, and just bite the fucking bullet and tow that bitch back to Chicago. And yeah, it'll cost some money, but um, what's it going to cost for Benton to drive up there and come back empty? I don't fucking know. I don't know or care about logistics and the actual numbers of the trucking business. I have a mind that understands business to some extent, but I ain't interested. We're crashing into tree limbs now. Gotta love that. Gotta love that. All right. Let's wrap this up. I'm gonna try to give you all a little bit more info, and then if anybody's curious, and then succinct storytelling is certainly not my gift, as we know. I'll see what I can do. Hang on, let me make sure the heater's still working back there. I think it is. Here. Let's just do this. Optimized idle, interior comfort mode on. You drove for 22 minutes, so that won't exactly charge the battery necessarily, but it might account for just whatever it took to start the truck. Log out. Turn the camera back on. Hang on, let me close the curtains. I knew I should have brought a. I almost grabbed a piss bottle. Well, actually, that's not true. I do have. I got a jug back there. I tried to. I threw all that shit away. Actually.
at the truck stop. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, backlight ain't gonna work. Pardon? Yeah, there's a jug. Oh, there's several. Yeah, we're good. We're good on the pee bottles. Yeah, trucker without a pee bottle. I mean, come on. How is that possible? All right. Man, hang on, hang on. All righty. Oh, and how long will it even take me to get there is another question. So, I still got to get there while the place is fucking open. Um, let's see. I forgot the name of the town. Just Google Maps, no? Do you know Google Maps? Maybe you do. Do you have a list of the towns I was searching for recently? You don't. Oh, history isn't saving. Well, all right. Well, fuck it. I think I remember the name. Let me see. Uh, Man, that ain't it. Fuck. I can't remember the name of this town. Well, let's just say 208, 285 at 55 miles an hour. Uh, yeah, 5 hours. Yeah, all right. Let's say we leave about 9. It's already 2 p.m. And then, oh, I don't know, man. It's interesting. Again, back to leverage, and I don't care about having it, but it's there. It's there. And so part of so let's backtrack a little bit. So at that point, he's like, "Well, I got a driver coming from, you know, he was a little short with me. So, well, I got a driver coming from Tennessee. But again, do I really believe that, or is he just trying to make me feel bad? He's like, yeah, go park at the nearest truck stop. You're done for the day. And I just sort of at that point, what I'm hearing is, we're pretty soon it's going to be clean out the truck time, and you're going to be, here's the thing is they will fire a driver, but still let them keep hauling freight if that makes any sense. And a lot of companies, now this is not one of those companies, but the big companies will just fire them by not giving them any miles, just giving them a bare minimum of miles and give them a bunch of crap loads. I don't know what the fuck he's going to do. And he can talk till he's blue in the face about what he would do or wouldn't do. But we got into some pretty ugly conversations when he directly threatened my permanent record. And maybe he was bluffing, maybe he wasn't. I don't know. Do I care at this point? Because ultimately, I'll either have a valid CDL or I won't have a valid CDL. And if I have an abandonment, the oil field doesn't know or care what that means. They don't know. They don't care. Um, Abandon it in the oil field all you want. We'll go get it. Right. And it's North Dakota. What's the weather in North Dakota right now? So I'm thinking about maybe renting a car. So I think my car ownership days are probably over. I can't say for sure, but I still might consider if I could find a decent enough beater for like no more than 2,000 and then just, but then am I willing to drive it around without insurance? Or am I really going to am I going to drop another grand Oh, here's Nightmare Dystopia's. It's time to renew Nightmare Dystopia. I still own it. Huh. It's interesting. And nightmaredystopia.com. There's no website there, but and so I real quickly figure out. And here's the funny part to me: the nearest truck stop was a Quick Trip. And as I punched in the GPS, and as I got close, I remembered when I was with Balkan, that's where I went and parked because I was unable to back into a dock to pick up a load. And I would have been capable of it, except, um, somebody in a little box truck or whatever snuck in right before me. And, I was even worse at backing back then. And then it was a spiritual attack where it was one of these people with a personality disorder who just wants to come out there and do hand signals and, watch you like a hawk the whole time and intervene. And I just left. I gave it a try, and I just fucking left. And, some of that I was still real sick. And, I was just, my dispatcher, I was like, y'all got to quit sending me to these kind of places. I mean, and it was really fucking tight. I said, y'all just got to quit doing it. This is crazy. What are y'all doing to me? This is nuts. But yeah, that's what I'm going to tell this guy and say, hey man, I guess I'll go up there. But I'm coming right back here, and I recommend that maybe we can work out something where I bring it to Chicago. But I can't be assured that he won't fuck me over on my record anyway, right? So I mean, and I'm not sure I care at this point. And I like to do the so-called right thing, but again, this ain't real anyway on some level, and it doesn't fucking matter. And this, I'm realizing half of this, your word is your bond, and all of this is it's more lies of the system, and the folly or the error is in going into these undertakings in the first place. The folly and the error is not by making this; it's his problem. If he didn't want these kind of problems, guess who's never had to deal with this? Benton, because I don't own and operate a trucking company. Right. And it's nothing personal. It's just like, it's only my problem to the extent that I will allow him to make it my problem. Right. Make sure is this heater blowing? Barely. Crank it up a level. It was pretty warm when I got in here, but earlier. I left it running all night. But I'm going back to my room, and I'm fucking doing whatever I feel like doing. And so what happened yesterday was, by the time he called me, I was at the hotel. Oh, no, he didn't know anything was going on. He just thought I was at the truck stop because apparently he really was sending somebody from. Now, whether he sent them from Tennessee or not, I have no idea. I remember we're in Wisconsin, so it's far.
He tried to claim that this was his plan all along. I call him bullshit, but I didn't bother to tell him that. But and it's funny how look at they say what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive. Well, I would say that the transacting in business with mammon as master, that's the that's the deception. Once I've entered into this transacting, I don't see how it could be, oh, well, because I have said before, when I quit 2 other times, and, at one point I did agree, I kept working for like 2 weeks, and I talked about that on stream, and it was, to get the truck back to Chicago. And then once I got back to once it was time to bring me to Chicago to part ways, he very persuasively talked me into staying, right? And but leverage, and and so in order to be properly identified based on what I am, just I got to treat him well and not lord it over him, and not
be accommodating. So he's persuasive, so he'll probably figure out some way to get me to take this thing to wherever the fuck it's going. I forget the name of the town, 285 miles away, and deal with whatever nonsense is at that delivery, and then uh, coming back empty. And here's a problem with persuasive people, because I agreed to do some shit yesterday that I had every intention of doing. So here's eventually we had these about 45 minutes of phone conversation because I sent him a message and it basically said, here's how I got to the hotel. I got to Quick Trip. I parked the truck in a parking spot. I dropped the trailer. I bobtailed. I checked into the hotel. I thought I moved everything. It turned out I've missed a few things. I moved what I thought was everything into the room. I bobtailed back to Quick Trip. I hooked up to the truck and the trailer. You know, I took pictures of everything. Then I Ubered to the hotel. And it turned out I forgot a few things. And then I forgot even more things like my cell phone mounts. It doesn't even matter. I don't really even. Actually, I have a brand new one anyway. Now I think about it, that I haven't even used yet. But either way, bobtailed here, and then I got to make sure I take my glass with me. Also, where's the lid to this thing? And then got to the hotel, Ubered to the hotel, and sent him a message basically saying, here's the manager I talked to at the Quick Trip. I told him y'all probably be coming to pick up the rig. I gave him your phone number. I gave him my phone number. So I sent this message saying that I'd done everything, as more or less as responsibly as possible, and also, indicating a spirit of cooperation. So then he calls me on the phone, and whether he was truly surprised or acted surprised, he's playing an official fiction, like, acting like it's no big deal. But see, to me, whether it's a big deal to him or not, it's a big deal to me that I'm being sent to places to do a job I'm just simply not able to do. And the failure ain't with me. You know, different people have different abilities. If that's a failure, then somebody else not being able to take the Armed Services Vocational Assessment Battery and score in the 99th percentile, that's their failure. Because you can't say to me, well, these other people do it, therefore you should be able to do it. Okay, well, I scored in the 99th percentile on the Armed Services Vocational Assessment Battery, and I can probably tell you how to do it. I could probably guide you and help you to be able to do that. But would it be reasonable for me to expect every person that joins that takes that test to score the 99th percentile? It's not even possible, because then there wouldn't be a 99th percentile, right? It wouldn't exist. It wouldn't be a thing at all. And this is the same thing. Like, if an idiot savant exists, when the retardation kicks in, I can't do anything about that. And that's what I told him. I said, listen, man, there may be we can think about intelligence, but I said, there is a such thing as, and he's a real smart guy. He's smarter than he's definitely more, he's got a higher IQ and more intellectual than I am, believe it or not. I mean, I shouldn't even say it that way. It's not that hard to do, but as we see, but I said, if there is such a thing as an idiot savant, well, there's still the idiot part. And, if the idiot savant can leverage the savant part, well, when the retardation kicks in, the retardation kicks in. And so what he's doing, in his salesman persuasion role, is he's like, well, basically he's saying, well, that happens to everybody. But no, it doesn't. It doesn't happen to everybody, because it doesn't happen to the other drivers, the majority of which, once they reach a certain level of experience, are absolutely able to do what I maybe would have been able to do without all the traffic coming in and out of there. Maybe. And because the undiagnosed fake autism won't let me do it. It's just simply never going to happen. And the people that work there were getting ready to leave anyway to go start their shift out on customer sites. I was, I could have got all the way onto the property just for them to say, "Hey, man, we got to go to work." You know, I might have got all the way in there to start backing up, and then now they're like, "Hey, man, you know, I don't know what to tell you, but we gotta go to work, and you're fucking blocking everything." Excuse me. You know, see, I should never be expected to, and this is where, again, I have no representation as a truck driver. There's no union. Now there is in certain jobs. There's no union for what I'm doing. I have no representation. If there was a union, they would take one look at these facilities and say, "You know, we're not. Our drivers aren't backing it. We're not blindside backing in off the road to do a blindside back in a 53 foot with a sleeper truck. You're out of your fucking mind. You're going to pay more. The corporation's going to pay more, and the local business is going to pay more, right? And our driver's going to get paid more, and we're going to bring this shit in on a box truck. And you're not going to be able to hire a fucking broker called Landstar, and then this small fleet owner of 25 trucks or whatever, you know, he's captured a majority of the business or a significant portion of the business coming out of this one facility in Connecticut. See, but the pricing is set up. It has to be done on sleeper trucks with 53-foot trailers. That's the only way, because of what, it's the only way for him to get the business. Anything else makes it too expensive to make a profit, right? So he's dependent on drivers who can and will, who are able to and are willing to do these backing maneuvers. And what we see with truckers is there's almost nothing they won't say no to, right? Now, part of this is I'm just like, no, this is, maybe if there wasn't all this traffic, maybe if human beings that aren't ever going to do this were willing to go block everything for 20 to 30 minutes, for a minimum of 15 minutes, so I can even get onto your property, right? To get onto the property, to then block their service vans while I attempt to hit their dock. That might take, God knows how long it might take. Right. This should never happen. And, you know, and part of his persuasion is he's making it seem like, you know, when I worked for these other long haul companies, that this was unusual. It was unusual that I would get to a place and it was this fucked up of a delivery. It happens on this job all the time, right? The only time I ever failed was, I don't think I ever just failed on a delivery. Once that trailer was loaded, they wanted that freight, and I wasn't ever going to places that did not. I wasn't going anywhere that a rookie driver in a sleeper truck with a 53-foot dry van couldn't get to the dock. Never. And as one of the worst at my level in trucking at backing, that meant I was never going to places to deliver. Sometimes I was sent to places where I couldn't get loaded, and that's fine. I just leave and say, "Hey, man, I don't know what to tell you. You're gonna have to send me somewhere else. You're gonna have to cancel it," and that's just what it is. And that happens sometimes. And sometimes that happened because whoever checked me in had a personality disorder. And I just took one look at what they were on about, and I just fucking left. I said, "Well, I'm leaving." And one time the yard truck driver caused it, and it was such a critical load that the lady who ran the whole big warehouse figured out what was going on. And she said, "Hey, is there anything we can do to convince you to?" I said, "Yeah, as long as you can keep your yard man away from me, who was physically threatening me with violence." And that's back when I was still armed, and, you know, I didn't tell her that, but I'm not trying to get in a self-defense situation. And she she let him finish his day of work, and whether they fired him or not, I don't know. But she was like, "Yeah, he's through a temp service," and I think this is probably his last day, but, you know, who knows? But they had the security guard stay with him or stay with me or something. I don't know. If you'll reasonably assure me that guy will stay the fuck away from me, sure. But otherwise, it's unsafe. And see, when you get into big corporations, all I have to do is say something's unsafe, and it's like, well, we can't ask him to do something's unsafe because that's liability. These small places, it's, oh well, the 100 truckers before, 100 truckers a week do it. Now, it turns out that some of these places I deliver, it's the only delivery they ever get on a 53-foot dry van with a sleeper truck. No other 53-foot dry vans on sleeper trucks ever go in there. It's all box trucks and, you know, or they go pick the shit up themselves around town. So anyway, he calls me and he's wanting to act like what the fuck's going on, and, and I'm basically like, look, man, I don't know if it's even worth, because if I'm fired, then there's no point in even hashing it out. So pretty quickly I figure out, well, he wasn't going to fire me, or if he wasn't going to do it now. In trucking, they'll absolutely just already have, they're like, okay, well, we can make money. We'll get beyond this. We can still make this money of what we've already planned him to do, and then we'll just ease him on out, right? We'll just ease him on out, you know. And whether they do that abruptly or in a manner that suits me, and that's never happened to me, but it certainly happens to others. It could happen to me, right? And ultimately, there can't be any trust here. And I might choose to go deliver this load because part of what I am, or part of my own manhood in some instance, I guess the dead flesh part too is, once I accept a job, I will do whatever's reasonable within reason that I'm able to do. But again, what if I get to this place and for all I know, we've never delivered there, and it's going to be the same situation. Oh, well, we thought you were going to have a pallet jack. Sometimes I get to these places and they're like, oh, we thought you'd have one of those fucking lift gates. You're like, yeah, no, I don't have a fucking lift gate. This is an over the road truck. They don't have lift gates. What are you talking about? And then they either MacGyver a solution or they don't, That's the way that goes. But anyway, we'll turn this tablet off again. And, we have our discussion, and, I feel that I'm being drained. The whole time he's trying to persuade me, I feel the spiritual attack. I feel the vampiric draining. I feel the, Neo in the fucking tank being, having his energies extracted. I feel it. And it's affecting my, mental health. And, to go through what I went through at that receiver and, that was already draining. And that spiritual attack was draining in the short term until what? It's draining until the spirit quickens. And so and I'll cut to the chase and wrap this up. What he had me agree to do was to, do whatever I was going to do in the room, which in his world is take a shower and blah, blah, blah. But in my world was, all my belongings are now completely disorganized, and I know I can leave most of my things here, even if I'm going to go deliver this load, but I still have to go to the room and figure out and organize my things enough to even be able to take what I need to take to drive 285 miles away. Or I can just go with almost nothing. My phone and my chargers, I can go with almost nothing. And never mind. I can go with almost nothing. And hang on, I don't know, I pulled this charger. That is my charger, but I don't think I even care. My car charger. Oh no, that's the company's car charger. So is this other one. But is that mine up there? I don't know. It doesn't even matter. But getting distracted. And so he's trying to. And so what I agreed to do was do whatever in the room, go back, Uber back to the truck, go park on the street at the delivery, and then wait for this other driver, and then go to sleep in the truck, and then have him wake me up. But I attempted to do this, except by then I was so drained, and I've talked about my mental health before, and on paper I'm completely above board, but nobody goes and lives in the streets with nothing for no fucking reason for 6 straight years. I mean, let's just call it what it is. And some of that was dealing, especially the early stages, was I recognized that and I'm not willing to take medication, and the only way to stay out of the mental health system was I had to take ownership of my own mental health, and I have successfully done that. So now I'm in a mental health, what would be for many people a mental health crisis, right? Except I've developed these ways of moving through the mental health crisis. And so I start to kind of try to organize things. And there was times in homelessness where I would, even after I transitioned to trucking, where I would find myself in a hotel room with my belongings and trying to organize them and realizing how difficult this was. And, I still have a desire to pare things down even further. And eventually I'm going to get to where I just have almost nothing. And that's what I told the owner on the phone. I said, look, man, yeah, I said, now I'm in a room with just all these things. And see, in his world, he doesn't understand because everybody else, for the most part, doesn't live in the truck. They have a house, they have a wife, they have a life. They take a duffel bag or two and hit the fucking road. Everything I fucking own was in this motherfucker. I threw it. I drove my tractor over here and made 3 trips with a rolly cart and just threw it. It's strewn about my motel room. And some of it's been organized, but a lot of it still has to be organized. So how long is it even going to take me to find the things so now I'm just lost in this soup of belongings, right? And, there's a specific like hoarder or perfectionism. It becomes paralyzing when the being is under stress, when the being is under spiritual attack, when the being is being drained and I could feel it. So this morning, what I formulated a plan. I putzed around the room, and I would start to try to get organized, and then I would recognize, hey, buddy, your mental health stuff. You just can't do this. And then I would putz around again and start to have a notion of getting organized. It's like, buddy, you can't do this. And eventually, kind of went back and forth. Thought about just leaving the key for the other driver. So then it's like I realized I can't even really leave this room. So then it was like, can I leave the key with the front desk? Yes, they'll let me. But then now I'm going to have to talk to the owner of the company. He's going to have to, he's going to try to talk me out of it. He's going to try to talk me into the truck. We've already had that conversation. So I agreed to do all of this. And then what I figured out eventually, and this took me hours. This is how fucked up my mental health got. It took me hours to figure out, I just need to, because I'd only taken one Uber. I said, and here's your sunk cost fallacy. But I said, I need to Uber back to the truck. I need to take the trailer to the delivery, leave it parked on the street, which it could get towed in the next 6 hours, but it probably won't. Probably won't. It's not there. It's not good there indefinitely. Then I need to bobtail back to the motel, and I need to just go on Benton time and just do whatever I'm going to do, which involved me trying to go to sleep for hours while because of proper identification, what would have been panic attacks and stress and oh my God, what am I going to do? None of that was there. But every time I thought about, going back to trucking and doing what this guy wants to persuade me to do and sort of negotiating with myself, I felt drained. And the only time I felt uplifted was when I thought about going out and preaching. The so-called air quotes word of God, but in a very, very specific way in the streets of America. That's the only time I felt uplifted, and it reversed the drain. And eventually I fell asleep and had some strange dreams, probably because I had, unfamiliar environment. And because I know how to manage my own mental health, everything's fine. But leverage, and I know to put myself first in these. I'm going back to my room. I'm doing whatever I want to do. And then when I choose to, I'm going to go out of do not disturb mode, and I will allow them to communicate with me. Thanks for watching. Bye.